When someone hears that I stand for Israel and against Hamas, one of the first questions I often get goes something like this. As a mother, as a Christian, how do you condone the suffering of the people in Gaza? And perhaps you've experienced something similar, that knee-jerk reaction that says being pro-Israel automatically means being anti-Palestinian. Like standing for Israel automatically means standing against the Palestinians. Now, I have a very standard answer I give to that question. But ultimately, my answer is irrelevant. Why? Well, I'm not an insider. I'm not part of one of those parties. However, I do want to introduce you today to someone whose answer is not irrelevant, to someone who is part of those parties, to someone whose opinion matters because he is an insider. And that someone is Bassem Eid. Bassem, welcome. Bassem is a Jerusalem-based political analyst, human rights pioneer, and expert commentator on Arab and Palestinian affairs. He was born in the Jordanian-occupied Old City in eastern Jerusalem, whose place of residence became the UNRWA refugee camp of Shuafat. Bassem rose to prominence during the First Intifada, or Palestinian Uprising, and was a senior field researcher for B'Tselem. In 1996, he founded the Jerusalem-based Palestinian Human Rights Monitoring Group, and in 2016, he assumed the role of chairman of the Center of Near East Policy Research. Bassem publicly condemned the widespread murder of Palestinian dissidents, often for reasons unrelated to the Intifada. In 1995, following his report about the Palestinian Preventative Security Service, he came under attack by some Palestinian leaders for revealing human rights violations committed by the Palestinian Authority. He was subsequently arrested by Yasser Arafat's presidential guards, but was released following widespread international condemnation. Bassem spent 26 years researching UNRWA policies and has written extensively on the subject of UNRWA reform and is an outspoken critic of BDS. He's a dynamic, prolific speaker, and he shares his insight with scathing realism, honesty, and humor. He sees the bigger picture, seeking dignity for his people and peace with his neighbors. Bassem, you're so welcome. Bassem, now we've gone through your bio, but there is so much there. I mean, how did that little boy who was born in Jordanian-occupied the Old City of Jerusalem and who grew up in Shuafat, which was an UNRWA refugee camp,
Right.
How did that boy become one of the most outspoken human rights activists speaking out against the crimes of the Palestinian leadership?
I think that the main reason for that I became a very realistic person, looking to the facts on the ground, looking what is surrounding me, looking to the changes of my life from the Jordanian period to the Israeli period, how much the level of life of my family grown up and up and up. We used to be a very poor family. We are 9 brothers and 1 sister. My father, I remember, he used to work as a tailor in the Old City. And his income wasn't, quite sure that he will get some money today or he is not going to get some money today. But after the 67 war, he found a job at Hadassah Hospital in Ein Karim. And he started working monthly, getting a monthly salary. You know, in the refugee camp, when we moved in 1966, we got only 2 rooms and 80 meters square of land without toilet, without water, without electricity, without a fence to protect the house.
And this was Jordanian.
That was under the Jordanians.
66.
So we lived like this probably for 5 years. 5 years. I remember when I used to wake up midnight and I want to a short call, my mom have to take me probably to walk 500 meters to a public toilet to make the short call and to bring me back home. It was horrible. So sometimes when you are suffering, you have more open eyes towards your own situation and what is really surrounding you. I visited the refugee camps in Lebanon. I visited the refugee camps in Jordan. I visited the refugee camps in Syria. Come on. You couldn't compare between those refugee camps under the Arab regime and the refugee camps in the West Bank and Gaza Strip under the Israelis. You couldn't compare at all. When I told people, the refugees in Lebanon, about my life in the refugee camp in Shafat, they couldn't believe me. They said, no, you are not living in a refugee camp. You are probably in a neighborhood near a refugee camp, but this is not a refugee camp. To tell them that we have 5 floors and 6 floors houses built from stones, not blocks, stones. People couldn't believe it. If you will come today to Shafat refugee camp, you think that you are in Manhattan. You think you are in Manhattan.
So yes, that's the one thing that really, when people come here,
right,
and they go to a refugee camp,
right,
you think you're going to see tents and naked people, naked little children running in the street, and yet that's not the case at all.
No, at all not, at all not, at all not. I think that those people are just naive. Those people don't want to know what are the facts. And those people probably want to continue defaming Israel, as an apartheid, as committing genocide against Palestinians. This is the type of people. So even if you will take them to the refugee camp today and show them the 7 and 6 and 8 floors, they don't want to believe, because the ideology that these people are holding is how to continue defaming Israel on the international levels.
So Bassem, another question before we move on. Under the Jordanians, ever was there an offer of a state?
No, that's making me laughing, these days when I am hearing the king of Jordan, Abdullah,
correct,
calling Israel for a Palestinian state, I said, listen, but your father ruled us for 19 years, from 48 until 67. In that period, the Palestinians, the original Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, were not allowed to identify themselves as Palestinians.
Oh.
I remember when my mom took me to the first class in the school, in the old city, in the Jewish quarter. The first lesson was to give your name, your age, where are you living, and what is your nationality. I remember one of the students said that he is a Palestinian. You couldn't believe how he was beaten by the teacher. And I was so lucky that he was in front of me. So immediately I switched, my answer from Palestinian to Jordanian. We were not allowed to identify ourselves. The only one on earth who identified the Palestinians as Palestinians is Israel.
My goodness.
Is Israel. Yes. So sometimes I said, King Abdullah, are you aware that your father ruled us for 19 years? The Egyptians ruled Gaza for 19 years. Even the Egyptians and the Jordanians never ever try to make any unity between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Not even a state, even a unity, how to link between those two big parts. So sometimes, it's funny.
Short memory.
Sometimes I used to say, I don't think right now that there is one Arab country interested to see a Palestinian state.
Why do you say that?
See, I think we did a lot of mistakes in different Arab countries. We went to Lebanon, Israel occupied the South Lebanon because of us. We went to Jordan, we want to occupy Jordan. And in 6 days, King Hussein killed 6,000 Palestinians
Hang
over
on.
there.
Please do tell us about this. I think this is a history that is completely unknown.
Right.
So just enlighten us on the 6,000 people killed in 6
Yeah,
days.
it was, that the beginning was that the Palestinian, let's call them fighters or Palestinian army or whatever, who has been hosted by the Jordanian government in that time, trying to take over the state from the Jordanians. And when the intelligence came to King Hussein by saying, listen, those people stopping high-rank officers on the streets, taking their cars, taking their weapon. What's going on here? Then King Hussein reached a point that these people are going to replace me. Why I should have to wait for them? Then the war started in 73. In 6 days, 6,000 Palestinians has been killed there. And Arafat ran away from there. And he went in that time to Lebanon. So look what's happened to Lebanon afterwards. Then the Lebanese, not the Lebanese, after the Israeli occupied the South Lebanon, Arafat was under a real threat from the Israelis. Then the Europeans interfered in that time by saying, okay, let us take Arafat out of Lebanon, and they sent him to Tunisia. So if you will take the first Gulf War in 1990, after Saddam Hussein occupied Kuwait, Arafat went to visit Saddam Hussein, congratulating him on the occupation of Kuwait, while Arafat in that time fighting against the occupation of the Palestinians. How it could be that you want to defend us from the Israeli occupation, and in the meantime you are supporting another kind of occupation. So the Gulf countries, until today, has a very, let's say, hard feeling towards the Palestinians. We lost a lot from that visit that Arafat made to Saddam Hussein after the occupation of the Kuwait.
Because they screamed hypocrisy.
And in the meantime, the Gulf used to be one of the biggest supporters to the Palestinians. They stopped. We have a big hospital on the Mount of Olives called Muqasid Hospital. Kuwait, which occupied by Saddam Hussein, used to support that hospital in 1 million Kuwaiti dinars yearly. You couldn't believe, I think that's something around $3 million. $3 million. One hospital. Immediately, the Kuwaitis, until today, they are not supporting the Palestinians at all, by the way, at all. Sometimes they are giving, 5-6 millions to UNRWA, because they think that UNRWA is taking care of the Palestinians, and this is our contribution to the Palestinians via UNRWA. This is so the Gulf don't like the Palestinians, and I believe most of the Arab countries don't like us. And this is why the Arab countries are totally against the Palestinian state.
Tragedy.
It is tragedy.
Now, before we continue, there's something that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
6 days, 6,000 Palestinians killed by the Jordanian regime.
right.
Where is the international outrage for that? Because surely, if we look at the international outrage over the war in Gaza, there must have been an international uprising about that.
You know, we used to say, no Jews, no news. Israel is not involved in that time, in that tragedy.
So no one cares.
So why to report about it? They don't want to upset King Hussein in the meantime. King Hussein used to have a very strong relationship with the international community. Looks like that he explained exactly to the international community what's really going on. And probably the international community almost justified what the King Hussein did against the Palestinians in Jordan. Imagine if that's happening in Israel. I don't want to describe. So I used to say, as a Palestinian, that we are the Palestinians probably the most lucky people on earth. For one reason. You know why?
No.
Because our conflict with Israel.
Oh my.
Imagine if our conflict with China or with India or in Africa, who will be aware? Who will take care of us? So we are really very lucky people. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I want to pick up with the history of Gaza because in this interview, I want us to focus on Gaza.
Right.
Now, you've spoken about the Egyptian occupation of Gaza from 1948, and how did the borders, let's just revisit that. How did the borders of the current Gaza Strip, why are they where they are today? How did the Gaza Strip become the Gaza Strip?
Yeah, it's after the 67 war. Israel is the only one who united the West Bank with the Gaza Strip, allowing people to travel from Gaza through Israel to arrive to the West Bank. I know hundreds of families who immigrate from Gaza after the 67 war, and right now they are living in the West Bank, but not the opposite. Not the opposite. Gaza continue fighting after the Israeli occupation in 67. The West Bank was quiet. Gaza, still there are people who continue fighting the Israeli army.
But let's go back
Yeah.
before the Six-Day War.
Yes.
What happened in Gaza after 48? Because the Egyptians, is that correct? They came in occupying the Gaza Strip
Right.
in 48. So what happened between 48 and 67?
It became as, Gaza became as a colonization, as an Egyptian colonization. The Egyptian never ever recognized the Gazan people, neither as residents nor as citizens.
So no passport, no nothing.
Nothing, exactly. Exactly.
So you're just a nobody.
Exactly. So when you want to enter, to travel, whatever, you have to ask for a specific permit because you don't have a passport. You don't have a passport. And where you can go? Only to Egypt. You couldn't leave Egypt because to leave Egypt, you need ID, you need a passport, you need travel document, you need something
You need to be a person.
to identify yourself. So the Egyptian refused. And the Egyptian just in that time used the tribes. And they told the tribes, that's yours. You manage yourself by yourself. No fight against us, no fight against the Israelis. Just be quiet. we will supplement, we will supply for you medicines, food, whatever you need. And that's all. So Gaza, like no Gaza between 48 and 67.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Bassem, you mentioned the tribes. Which tribes are those?
See, right now, if you will look to the Gaza Strip, the 67% of the people of the Gaza Strip these days originally are Bedouins. These people moved during the 1948 from the south of Israel to inside Gaza, from Beersheba, from Rahat, from those places. So originally these people are Bedouins. Now, if you will look to the Gaza Strip today, Gaza Strip is divided to 5 different districts. In each district, you have a big tribe over there. The Israelis knows those tribes. The Egyptian knows those tribes. I think in a kind of cooperation between the Israelis and the Egyptian, those tribes can play a very important role in the coming period after the Hamas. If Israel will be able to provide an economic prosperity to those tribes, I believe that they will provide a good security for Israel.
Interesting. And Netanyahu has mentioned that, correct?
He mentioned that Netanyahu against giving the Gaza Strip to the Palestinian Authority, which I totally agree with that, because the Palestinian Authority is so corrupt authority. They just want to benefit from Gaza, but not to benefit Gaza. And in the meantime, the two-state solution is dead. Leave it, yeah. A peace process, there is no peace, because before peace, we need the bridges of peace. We need the bridges of peace. While the bridges of peace are ready, then you can be very optimistic that peace is coming.
But those bridges do not exist.
Unfortunately.
All right, let's move from 67 to during the 90s with the Oslo Accords.
Yeah.
What happened in that time in Gaza? That was the time that Hamas was born.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So please tell us about Hamas. Introduce us to Hamas. Who is Hamas? How did they come to be?
Yeah.
And what do they believe?
See, these people used to be a part of the Islamic Brotherhood movement.
From Egypt, right?
From Egypt. And I remember in 1987, there is a function within the Islamic Brotherhood movement separated from the Islamic Brother movement. And they call themselves the movement of the Islamic resistance, Hamas. They call themselves. So they founded something in December, I think, probably 88 or 89, something like that. And those people, I don't know from where they get their funding and their financial support in that time. They used much more to focus on the civil affairs rather than anything else. In small neighborhoods, to go to create kindergartens, as an example. Or if there is lack of schools in a refugee camp, they start hiring buildings and making it schools, and everything for free for the people. Everything for free.
Nice.
I remember I used to work with B'Tselem in that time, yeah. I remember that I met several European diplomats in that time. And I said, listen, you have to be aware from these people. Because today, they start with the kindergarten, with the school, small clinic, but these people will develop. When these people will get more and more popularity among the Gazan people, they are going to do a very bad things to everybody on earth, including the Palestinians. So, why you are allowing them to do so? Why you are not yourself doing that? You start building schools. You start building clinics. You start building kindergartens. But unfortunately, it's politics.
So they won the hearts of the people.
Exactly.
Through good work.
Exactly.
While the Palestinian Authority, on the other hand, can you give us the other side?
Yeah. I don't think, listen, the Palestinian Authority, since it started in May 94, after their arrival to Gaza and Jericho in that time, everybody noticed that they are corrupt. Everybody noticed that these people are corrupt. And the Hamas, of course, used the Palestinian Authority corruption by showing the people, especially in Gaza, that we are with you. We are trying to provide a free services to you while your authority is corrupting you financially and politically.
My goodness.
Now, what makes Hamas popularity so high was the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza in 2005.
Tell us about that.
Now, Ariel Sharon went to sleep one day and he wake up in the morning by saying, I am going to make a peace initiative. His government asked him, what does it mean, peace initiative? He said, you can look to the international community. Everybody is demanding a state to the Palestinians. Let us make a peace initiative, giving Gaza to the Palestinians. Let them start building their own state. I want to withdraw from Gaza. When the plan came out of Ariel Sharon, the Palestinian leaders from the both sides, the Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, start running from one TV channel to another TV channel by saying, if Israel will withdraw from Gaza, we are going to make from Gaza Singapore. Yes, this is what I heard. Then Ariel Sharon, in August 2005, decided to leave the Gaza Strip to the Gazan people.
So, Bassem, let's just pause there for a moment. Everyone screams two-state solution, two-state solution. The way I see it, this was a two-state solution. This Gaza was a two-state solution. It was an attempt by Israel to give them that. Is that correct?
You're right. You're right. But who killed the two-state solution? The Palestinians. The Hamas took over the Gaza Strip in 2007, kicked out the Fatah movement to the West Bank, and here we became to three-state solution for two people. Three-state solution.
Let's go back to the kicking out.
Yeah.
Explain that kicking out for us. It wasn't just a, oh, excuse me, Mr. Mahmoud Abbas, we don't appreciate you anymore. Would you mind leaving?
Yes, it's not been like that. Ariel Sharon disengagement took place in August 2005. In January 2006, we used to have elections for the parliament, not for the presidency. So, because the Hamas start dancing on the Israeli withdrawal by considering as its own success, because the suicide bombing, because the rockets, because the resistance, Hamas forced Israel to withdraw from Gaza. That gave a huge popularity among the Palestinians to the Hamas.
Do you remember that withdrawal?
Yes, of course.
What was the feeling inside Gaza at that point? What did the Palestinian people say? What did Hamas say?
I told you, Hamas said that they are going to make Gaza Singapore. So while people listen the word Singapore, everybody became so happy. He's going to live in Singapore, not in Gaza. Gaza is going to develop. Gaza is going to grow up. Gaza is going to be the future of the Palestinians. This is what people thought. This is what people prepared for, because this is what they taught us, that it is going to be paradise. It's going to be paradise. So that's the main reason why the Hamas won the elections in January 2006. And they got over than 70 seats out of 120 seats in the parliament.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then came the civil war in Gaza.
Yeah. I remember after the elections, Abbas came to Gaza. He present the presidential degree to Ismail Haniyeh that you are allowed to form your government.
Ismail Haniyeh,
Yeah.
head of Hamas.
Right. Who escaped now from Gaza to Qatar. Yeah. So Ismail Haniyeh formed the government. I think that there was around 26 different ministers in that government. And then there was a problem that everyone want to boycott the Palestinians because the Hamas won the elections. Of course, Israel start its own campaign that these people are dangerous, that these people are terrorists, that these people couldn't rule a government, that these people still looking to continue fighting Israel. And that's brought a huge boycott on the Palestinians in that time. I don't know if that's really affected the Palestinian civilians as much as it's affected the leaders, because no one want to give money.
Right.
There is no salaries. They couldn't give salaries to the police, to the intelligence, to, so many security forces here. When the Hamas find that there is a lack of money to manage the Gaza Strip, looks like that they made their own contacts with the Iranians in that time by saying, listen, if you will support us financially to continue managing at least the Gaza Strip, we probably later on will occupy the Gaza Strip, and we have no problem to make it as Iranian colonization.
Wow.
This is what is Gaza today.
Indeed.
It is an Iranian colonization. Looks like that the Iranians like the idea, uh, especially that Gaza is so close to Israel, and the agenda of the Iranians was in that time how to continue disturbing the internal Israeli security. So it looks like that the Iranians gave a lot of money. Hamas decided to make their revolutionary in June 2007, which means exactly 1.5 years after the elections.
And what happened in June 2007?
They start fighting. They know about some prominent, let's say, Palestinian figures from Fatah movement, who has, a high position in the security forces. They start, invading their houses, killing them, shooting them. And while the Fatah saw that around 140 of his people killed in 2 days by the Hamas, then everybody became scared and he wanted to flee. The first one who flee from Gaza, the head of the preventive security forces in Gaza, Mohammed Dahlan, who is staying in Dubai right now. He's the first one who escaped from Gaza. The first one. Imagine if the head of the security force flee out. What the other members are going really to do there? They also have to flee.
It's like the Minister of Defense fleeing.
Exactly.
So they left their people.
They left their people. And they contacted the Israelis. The Israelis opened the borders, Erez checkpoint, for the Fatah people to cross from Gaza to the West Bank.
Which then became 3 states.
Exactly.
2 people.
Exactly.
Israel, Judea, Samaria, ruled by Fatah, Palestinian Authority. Gaza, ruled by Hamas.
Exactly.
So this is June 2007. Now, Bassem, I want to talk about Gaza and the logistics surrounding Gaza. Gaza is very often referred to as the world's biggest open-air prison. Apparently, there's a blockade, there's a siege, there's an occupation. Please tell us about that. Debunk that for us.
There is also a huge difference. While you said you are going to make Gaza to Singapore, and then immediately you turn it to ISIS. This is the reaction that you are going to get. This is the reaction that you are going to get. Not only Israel imposed blockade on Gaza, but also Egypt.
This is interesting
Yeah.
because if you listen to the international community,
The international community much more focused on Israel, but Egypt also is a part. Now, they are calling Egypt to allow the humanitarian aid to enter to the Gaza Strip, not only Israel. Now, Egypt also imposed the blockade. Now, this is why I said that we, the Palestinians, are really not qualified enough for a state. Because I saw what's happening in Gaza. I used to say that in Gaza, we, the Palestinians, almost destroyed what remains from the Israelis. We destroyed it.
explain that.
The Israelis left Gaza a very good agricultural land the Israelis created in the Gaza Strip that they left it to the Palestinians. Go and work there.
Make a future.
Try to export fruits, vegetables to all of the world. Start developing your country. Start building your country instead of destroying your country. But the Hamas ideology is not specifically the point of Gaza. Hamas is looking how to destroy Israel because the Hamas believes that Israel is existing on the Palestinian land, and that Palestinian land must have to be back to its own real owners. This is the ideology of the Hamas. Hamas will never accept Israel to exist. And they said it in their charter very, very clearly, that Israel has no right to exist.
And let's just be clear, that charter was there from the very beginning, from the birth. So it isn't something that came after Israeli so-called oppression.
This is an ideological issue that from the born of the Islamic Brotherhood movement, that charter came out. The charter came out. And the Hamas inherited from the Islamic Brotherhood movement. And the Iranians confirm it. This is how things are playing here.
So Bassem, 2007, Hamas take over.
Right.
And it doesn't take long before the first military operation between Israel and Hamas.
Right.
End of 2008.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Why did that happen?
Because the rockets. Because the rockets. Israel not offered the Gaza Strip to the Palestinians as a stage for shooting rockets to us. No. We offer you the Gaza Strip to build your own state, to be free, to develop yourself, to build the future of your people. This is why we gave you Gaza, but not for shooting rockets. If you are going to shoot rockets, we are going to destroy not only you, but also Gaza that we left it. And unfortunately, this is how it became as a tradition. A tradition. Every 2-3 years, we have a new war. Another couple of hundreds of people will be killed. It's okay, who is counting here? Who is counting them? No one is counting them. Right now, according to the, I don't know according to what, they talk about 30,000 people killed in Gaza since in the past 5 months. What Hamas said? Hamas said that they are ready to sacrifice the last Gazan man or woman for this war.
But let's be clear here, Bassem. They said they are willing to sacrifice the last man, woman, and child, not for freedom and liberation or a side by side with Israel. No, no, no. What they said that they are willing to sacrifice every last woman, man, and child for the destruction of Israel.
Yes.
This is what they said.
These people are not looking for freedoms. These people are not looking for democracy. They are not the builders of peace. They are not. They are not. So, these people want to... Now, imagine, if Israel today, and this is what the Palestinians saying, which I don't believe it, that if Israel... No, let's go recently, I think 2 months after the start of the current war. Ismail Haniyeh himself in Qatar, in Doha, in one of his press conferences, he said, we are ready to accept the two-state solution. He said it. If you search it on Google, you will find it. And he said, the Palestinian state on the borders of 67 borders, East Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine, and Israel will be living side by side by a good neighbors. You have to look for it. I heard it in my ears. Now, I am as a Palestinian. Leave the Israelis. I don't believe Haniyeh. If Haniyeh accepting the two-state solution, if the two-state solution will be found tomorrow morning, will Haniya and Hamas stop terrorizing Israel? Come on.
Just for interest's sake, Bassem, if the two-state solution is realized tomorrow morning, which I'm confused because
Yeah, me too.
surely this is what happened in 2005 with the Israeli disengagement, so it's like going back. Okay, let's leave that there. But what would happen to you personally and your family if Hamas were to come in tomorrow? What would happen to you and your family?
No, I don't think that I will remain in the country. This is not my country then. If the Palestinian state will be ruled by the Hamas, that's not my state.
Right.
That's not my country. I must have to immigrate. So this is, very, very clear. Yeah, even to my family today, that we couldn't live under such kind of an Islamic dictatorship regime. We saw what the Hamas doing in Gaza. We saw the crimes that the Hamas is committing against their own people in the Gaza Strip, which is unfortunately, Gaza right now is like a closed cupboard. Nobody knows what is going inside that cupboard. And nobody is allowed to know what's going on inside that cupboard. This is the failure of the international community, that they left these people to do whatever they want, secretly, not publicly, and they never ever been under any kind of accountability or under any kind of a transparency. This is how the Hamas build themselves, and looks like the Hamas today considered by Al Jazeera TV like Vietnam.
Yes.
Like Vietnam.
Bassem, you spoke about crimes against the Palestinian people, and I heard something yesterday.
Yeah.
I know you can't confirm the story specifically, but
Right.
I want to establish the mindset. What I heard was the following. I heard it from a soldier who said that he saw through binoculars, through a sniper rifle, he saw looking into a Palestinian neighborhood, Palestinian children, young boys playing soccer, 5 of them. A Hamas terrorist walking up to them, taking each of them, hanging them by the back of their necks from a pole. They're too young, they can't get themselves down. He sat down, smoked a cigarette while he watched them suffocating. And the soldier looked up to the buildings and he saw the grown-ups looking out, doing nothing. They're immobilized, they're scared. The 5 boys died, he took them down, put them down, took pictures. And then he would upload that.
See, these people are, first of all, we are talking about terrorists here. Terrorists can do even much more than that. While the Hamas, during the school summer holidays, used to organize trips for children which is between 6 to 10 years old, to bring them to a training military camps, showing them how to use the Kalashnikov, and even to allow them to try to shoot. So these terrorists are looking how to build another terror from the new generation. From the new generation. That's a huge crime. That's a huge crime. It was on the TVs. It was on videos. Where is the justice here? Where is the International Court of Justice here? Where is the International Criminal Court here? Where? 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 So I didn't see in the past 17 years since Hamas occupied Gaza, I didn't see one country around the world who are really trying to protect the Palestinian civilians from the Hamas.
As a Palestinian, how does it make you feel?
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible because the biased international community is whatever the Hamas is doing against his own people, the biased international community accusing Israel on that.
Bassem, I can sit and talk to you all day, but I'm going to conclude with two questions. And the first one is, we've all seen the suffering in Gaza. We've seen it, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
Who do you blame?
See, first of all, no doubt that the only Hamas should have to be blamed on the situation in Gaza. I said that publicly. I just 3 days ago published an article in the Newsweek, and they said Hamas starving their own people.
Why? Explain that to us.
See, Hamas is playing a big game here. And while Palestinians suffering more, Hamas is gaining more and more popularity and funding and support. This is the only thing that the Hamas is looking for. While more and more Palestinians will be killed, that's will benefiting the Hamas, not anybody else on earth.
Say they don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I used to say that these people are not representing the Palestinians. They are not representing the Palestinians at all. I think that they became so clear that they are an Iranian agents and a Qataris traitors. Full stop.
Bassem, my last question to you is, if you had the entire international community who calls Hamas freedom fighters, if you had them here standing in front of you today, what would you tell them?
See, I think those who are considering the Hamas as freedom fighters, I think that they are the coming terrorists in this world. These people are supporting terror rather than they are supporting Palestinians. I think that I talk about it and I wrote about it. I remember on the October 7th, when the so-called pro-Palestinians start celebrating the massacre of the Jewish people in the south of Israel, and considering it as a Palestinian victory. I said it, and I continue saying it, that if the Jewish massacres will be considered as a Palestinian victory in the 21st century, this is the end of humanity. I think that those people never ever been pro-Palestinians, but they are 100% pro-Hamas and pro-terror. And I think that the countries that those people are acting in should have to start looking deeply to the future that those people are going to destroy their societies and their countries.
This is chilling.
Yeah.
Bassem Eid, ladies and gentlemen. Bassem, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
I want to conclude with the question with which I started. As a mother, as a Christian, as a human being, how do I condone the suffering of the people of Gaza? And my answer is simple. I don't. My answer is this. The suffering of the people in Gaza, it breaks my heart. It keeps me awake at night. And as a human being, I hope it does the same to you. I hope witnessing the suffering of the people in Gaza, it keeps you awake at night. It breaks your heart. It spurs you to action. It drives you out in the street, demanding that the source of that suffering be annihilated, demanding that Hamas be taken down.
Yeah.
Because yes, the people of Gaza are suffering tremendously. But every iota of that suffering can be ascribed to one source, and that's Hamas. And after hearing Bassem's testimony today, you know, this isn't my opinion, it's fact.